Welcome back, CSE 235 to ex7. This is part 3, and I'm just going to review some things we've worked on here, or if you've worked on here. I've done some things, and I've worked up to about maybe the 31-minute point in this video. And again, part of doing this is he's already doing it, so I don't want to do it over and have you follow me. You might as well just follow him. You'll get as much from him as you will from me in terms of what he's doing and just following code. Now, he doesn't explain a lot, so I just want to show a couple things here as far as where I'm at. Now, this is as far as you have to go. I'd say just get to the 31-minute mark. Get to the point where you have your navbar, you have your showcase, and you have your newsletter part down here. Now, just a couple customization things I want to point out. Well, actually, let's look at everything that's here first. There's the nav area up here, and I customized this. I just put in a text primary. How did I do that? I went down here to the link, the anchor, and after navbar brand, which gave it the kind of typographical look, I put text-primary, and that made it blue. That did that, and I just used the same color they're using there. You don't have to do that. I just did it just to try it out, and that's what you're going to do with Bootstrap. You're going to try out things and see what works. And even changing colors at breakpoints doesn't seem to work, even though changing padding and margin at certain breakpoints, which they do, seems to work. So, for some reason, that's something that doesn't work that easy. You almost have to use a media query to do that. Now, a couple things just to point out here. Up here, this is kind of your nav menu up here. And if you look in your code, you have navbar toggler. And you're like, what's that? Well, toggler is what happens. That's mobile first. So you don't see the toggler here. The toggler is what you see when you go down here. That's the toggler. So that basically collapses everything, and then you see these. So that's the toggler that you're seeing in there. So that's all set up, so you don't have to do that. You do have to kind of follow how it's set up here. And again, a lot of stuff to learn here, a lot of stuff to get used to. It's not easy. That's why the best thing to do is just follow something that's already kind of done, and then maybe customize it with your own graphics, with your own colors, things like that. And that's why they say, Bootstrap isn't really something to really be real individualized about it when you first do it. You're going to make something that looks like a lot of others. And that's great when you want to, create a layout like this and you just want to have your own content and it looks professional, it looks good, but learning to follow their system takes some time. So, just even making that blue. A couple other things I want to point out here. In this showcase area, he decided he wanted the laptop to sit on this blue area at larger sizes. So when it gets smaller, it kind of pops up. You have some more space there, and then eventually it's going to stack when you get smaller. And if you can't see it stacking, you could always go to inspect. I'm in Chrome, and just put it in this kind of responsive view here, and then you can kind of view it at all different breakpoints up here. Sometimes it's harder using the other inspect, and that way you could see where those breakpoints are and where those widths change of all the containers. And obviously this is extra large. Keep going, that's extra large. So everything extra large and up is going to stay that way, and then everything kind of works down. So it's set up like this, and then everything is kind of working out. So that's mobile first. This is mobile first, working your way out. And it starts off like this and then working out to, okay, it's around the 1,000 point there. And you can see it gets around it's actually 992 where that changes. So what changes is it loses the padding at the bottom. So how did he do that? Well, what he did was go into the showcase area. And if you remember this part, all this stuff in here, this is P5. That means there's padding of 5 pixels all around. And then at P large, when it gets to the large size, remember, we're always working smaller to large. So when it gets to large, it puts padding at 0. There's no padding at 0. And because it got too close to the top, that graphic got too close to the top, he actually put PT large -5. So he puts the size in the middle there. So it puts padding on the top and takes away padding at the bottom. Is kind of what happens there, when originally for all the time it's going to have padding 5 all around. So that's how they can make things a little bit responsive with some of these, but you got to be familiar with the whole system that they're working on in there. And again, text warning is that yellow color that's using this part here. I'll just make this larger again. Actually, I'll get out of this for now. And so that's the showcase. The button is in the primary color, all that kind of stuff. So I just want you to work on this newsletter part down here. The only other kind of modification he made down here, which he couldn't do through here, was actually making the newsletter, the input group, he put in a custom. So he kind of made this class called news input. He put this in here in the input group. The input group, again, if you don't know what the input group is, just right click on here and kind of inspect this. And there's form control, and this whole thing I think over here is called the input group. Let's take a look at it. Click on the input group. Sometimes it won't highlight. There's the input group. That's the whole thing with the button and that's the input group, because I'm seeing it down here. And what he recommended to do, he thought it was too wide at larger sizes, because this gets really wide to put in your email. Your email is only going to go to there. So what he did, what he recommended to do, you could do whatever you want, but what he did was not do anything in here with the size. He actually made a custom style. So he went right into the styles, made this media query, and again, min width means anything over. Now, sometimes we'll do things where we'll work from desktop down and we'll use max width, so that when it gets a smaller size for mobile, we'll do different styles. That's what we did in CSC 230. But here they're working mobile first, so everything's min width. So it's like when it gets to a larger size. So when it gets to a larger size here, news input, that custom class that he put in there in the input group, he put 50%, I put 75%. So that changes when you get to a certain size. So when you get to a certain size, it's going to look okay like that. But rather than being too wide, when you get up here, it made it a little bit smaller. So when it gets to that large size, they kind of shorten this a little bit, so it's not so wide across the screen. You can see there's more space on either side of it right now, as far as that input group. So that's another customization he did. But again, that's all I want you to do here. I know this is kind of odd. You're following somebody else too. You're used to following me. I don't know if it's better or not better. Maybe it's better. But he does go fast, and he doesn't explain a lot of things he's typing. I at least try to do that when I'm doing that with you. But, it's just a matter of getting used to this a little bit and getting used to what's going on. And I can't say I feel comfortable working in Bootstrap. I don't. I'd rather be doing it myself. But if you have to do prototypes, if you have to do mock-ups, finding a nice layout to work with, even if you're going to do something on your own, it's even a nice place to learn. Even in 230, the Jumbotron layout that we do for one of our exercises actually comes from a Bootstrap template. So that's kind of where that comes from. So we kind of work backwards in there. And instead of using the template, we kind of just build it the way we want it. And that helps you learn the way CSS works. It helps you learn the way columns work and everything in here. So again, all these containers are set up to basically work on Flex. So anything inside a container will kind of stack until they get to mobile size. So once it gets to mobile size, they won't be side by side anymore. And that's a default setup with these containers in Bootstrap. So it's a pretty neat environment, but you have to do it all the time. You almost have to keep working on these, start working on one that, if you work for a company that they do stuff in Bootstrap, you'll kind of learn from working on that one. It's like working in WordPress. If you ever worked in WordPress, you're always inspecting everything, looking at everything, finding all these classes, classes. It's a little bit like that. There's not as much you can do with this as WordPress, because WordPress is a whole content management system. This is a framework for CSS, but it's something nice to kind of explore a little bit. You shouldn't be unfamiliar with it. I don't know if you have to necessarily delve into it and know how to do everything with Bootstrap, but you should have a little experience with Bootstrap and working with it a little bit and explore it a little bit when you can. So that's what we're doing here. I'm not sure if we'll do something else with Bootstrap or move on to maybe some back-end kind of stuff, but finish this off in his video, get to about 31 minutes. That's all you have to do. Obviously, you could do more if you want, but that's all I'll ask you to do in this exercise for ex7. So when you're done, just highlight your URL up here and just put it in the ex7 part, even though that's still in the unit 7 and we're kind of into unit 8 now. But we have our quiz for this stuff in unit 8, and again, a lot of that on the second part of the quiz is all this stuff in here, in all the Get Bootstrap area, where you can go and check out containers, where you can check out typography in here, you can check out images, all that kind of stuff, navbar, buttons, all that, the colors. It's a whole world to learn in here, and just to dabble in it once is very confusing. Even for me, I don't do this a lot. I'd have to work on this all the time to really get comfortable using it, and even to get more comfortable teaching it. I mean, to try and teach it, that's why I'm letting him do it. I figure he probably knows more about it than I do as far as doing this. I'm trying to understand it as I work as well as you are. So anyway, that's ex7. I just wanted to go over this a little bit, but that's all you have to do is get to about the 31-minute mark. Get to the point where you have your navbar, you have your showcase, and you have your newsletter. That's all you really have to do. You could go on further. He does that section below using the cards, which are a Bootstrap kind of component that are set up with icons on them. So you could do more if you want, but this is all you have to do for ex7. So just wanted to wrap this up in this little part 3 video. So any questions, email me. Some people have emailed me already about you're a little unsure about where to go with this, but I just want you to kind of work through it a little bit. That's the best I can do as far as Bootstrap. I am not a Bootstrap expert, and I can't explain it without telling you, look at the resources, look at the documentation, and just kind of work through it a little bit and try different things. You're not going to break it, undo it. If you put something in, you see if you could do this, do that, try to customize things a little bit, but we might want to work with some templates at some point, Bootstrap templates, but for now, I think this is a nice little start just to get introduced to Bootstrap.